Welcome back, listeners. This is your pilot speaking. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Airlines, and I am joined tonight by my two co-pilots,
Cara Hayes,
Robert Bradford.
And we are continuing our Lost 20-year retrospective now in the last season, picking up where we left off last week with episodes 7, 8, and 9 of Season 6. But first, before we dive into that, we had a themed drink. Robert, what was it?
So my normal strategy of just Googling the names of episodes and finding a cocktail that matches up to that failed me this week. So instead I was like, okay, we're going to have an episode where we have a flashback from Richard, who is the oldest of the main cast members that we have on the run of the show. And I was like, all right, so what is the oldest cocktail that we have a record of? And there's some dispute about that. I think in the U.S. it's the Sazerac out of New Orleans. But apparently what's generally agreed, one of the options that's agreed on is grog, which was a spirit and water combination that was used among sailors because alcohol was given as part of a sailor's rations, but spirits were easier to, or you could store greater quantities than beer. It was watered down to make it last longer. They started adding citrus in to help fight scurvy and other diseases. So yeah, we had a variant that was Bermuda rum, simple syrup, lime juice, and a splash of water. So kind of a mintless mojito.
and it was great because I don't have scurvy now.
And that is one less thing for us to worry about. So we've got that going for us.
Also, again, it was a naval drink, and one of our characters spends a lot of time on an old wooden ship this episode. Not this episode, but this set.
Love it. Thank you, Robert, for plying us with alcohol. All right, we're going to pick up with episode 607, Dr. Linus. And as the name implies, this is a Ben episode. And it starts off with a jungle run featuring Ben running through the forest to catch up with the it's the Ajira crew, right?
The statue crew, I think we called them.
The statue crew, yeah, that's right. Yep, so I feel like it's been a minute since we've gotten to see Michael Emerson run anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, he's doing I just saw, Saeed in full-on serial killer mode, so I think all of us would be running as fast as we could, too.
Fair.
Yeah.
We jumped to Sideways Ben, who we've already seen in one of Locke's episodes last week, but we see him in his element as a history teacher at this school. And specifically, he's teaching a lesson on Napoleon and his last years as an exile on Elba, because this is not going to be an episode that's subtle about its themes.
Yeah, we've talked about, how subtle this show can be at times, and the answer is usually not very. But hey, we get a special guest star with this one. It's William Atherton, who has a history of playing dicks on TV and film.
Dicks with authority is his specialty.
Exactly. And sometimes without dicks, because he's known as Walter Peck from Ghostbusters. That's right, this man has no dick. And he was also Richard Thornburg, the reporter in Die Hard. And Die Hard 2, but we mostly love him for the first one.
It's not really a huge part, but you just love seeing this great character actor just immediately dialing up the slime on this figure to the 10th level.
Absolutely.
And then we get, right after that, another guest star. Dr. Arts is back, you guys.
Yay.
I know everyone missed that, and I cannot remember the actor's name.
Spent the whole episode, I think it's
Daniel Roebuck. There we go. Yep.
Spent the whole episode waiting for him to just spontaneously explode in the Sideways world too.
I know, it would have been it's the only thing that's missing from it. It's just spontaneous combustion. You can have my parking spot, Ben says, and then
That would have been brilliant. That's what would happen today.
Oh, 100%, or if I was in charge.
Well, yes.
So yeah, as you can imagine, Dr. Reynolds, I think, or Principal Reynolds is I think his name, is just not the most popular guy. Ben is kind of generally grousing about how somebody, who cares more about the school ought to be in charge. And new substitute teacher John Locke suggests that, Ben should, step up if he wants to do that, and gives him even a little pep talk. So, unlike the island where Ben was constantly poking and manipulating Locke and, luring him with ideas of, being more involved, being in charge of the island, all that. This one, Locke just gives Ben a push in the direction that he should be going.
And he even specifically uses the words "new man in charge," which that was the name of an episode, right? Am I crazy? Or the man in charge?
I'm sure it was used at one point. I know it's been said a bunch of times.
This feels like something that the three of us should know, considering how much time we spent. But we've talked about a lot of episodes of Lost.
And I forget a lot of things.
And we've just had stuff going on in between, too.
And Cara doesn't hear music, as we've discovered.
Nope.
It's the epilogue special that was released. So it's not an episode yet, but it's the short that comes up.
That's right. I forgot all about that.
Are we going to watch that?
Oh, we have to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Part of the experience.
We're going to need some cool down time between watching the finale and watching the epilogue.
The anything else?
Yeah, exactly. So Miles is asked to use his ability on Jacob's ashes to find out who really killed him. And I got to say, the way that it's shot and edited looks a hell of a lot cooler this season than it has in previous seasons, where the camera just got really jumpy all of a sudden. This actually looks like, he's doing something.
I don't quite know. And, obviously I'm not a psychic at all. But I don't know, can you hold what may or may not actually be ashes from Jacob and get a read on those? I don't know. Something feels...
Yeah, prior to this, what was the biggest reach he had to do? Because he was in the kid's room, right, when we first saw him in his season 4 flashback, so he's able to connect with a place that a person spent a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think other than that, the ashes are probably the least he's had to work with.
Yeah, and he can do it through the ground as well, because he spoke to, I believe it was, what's her name?
Rousseau and Alex, he found where they were buried.
Yeah, and then way back in season 4, he talked to that woman who got knifed in the back. And as we find out, I think in either this episode or the next, he found out where Nikki and Paolo were and what they had on them.
Oh, well, and wait a minute, because he said that they were buried alive, which of course we know, but the cast didn't know that. And
he says it to Ben, who I don't think ever knew them when they were alive, so he has no reason to care. Oh. And plus, Ben is engaged in digging his own grave at gunpoint at the time.
True.
So yeah, I don't think anybody from the 815 group ever finds out about that.
Oh, man.
Another missed opportunity, much like Dr. R's exploding out of nowhere. It would have been great to just see Miles walk by a group of people, eating a chunk of mango and being like, so you guys really buried 2 people alive, huh? And then just keep walking.
Wait, what?
They're like, Shannon? Which 2? Scott or Steve?
I don't remember anybody named Nikki and or Paolo.
But yeah, so... Miles, his thing works, and so he is able to realize that Jacob's last memory is Ben standing over him with a bloody knife. Ben, who's had a pretty rough just stretch of episodes with things happening to him, kind of off his lying game, because when Alana turns to him, the best he can manage is, what? Clearly did not. And he knows Miles can do this, so maybe he just did not realize what was about to happen until 2 seconds before, but...
Well, or maybe as Cara pointed out, he didn't think that Miles could do it with ashes. Because you imagine, half of that bag that she's carrying around has to be from the fire itself.
Exactly.
A little Jacob goes a long way.
There we
go.
Yeah, so Alana kind of emphasizes her feelings on this by... I don't think she actually throws Ben around at this point yet, but she gets in his face and says, Jacob was the closest thing I had to a father, hinting at what I'm sure is a fascinating backstory that we'll get more of later on this season.
Oh, absolutely. And I, for one, can't wait to find out more about Alana.
That was me accidentally hitting my water bottle on the table as I picked it up.
Yeah, it's just a little vibraty. It's fine. I glanced down at just the right time to see that this episode was directed by Mario Van Peebles.
Okay, thank you, because I noticed that and I thought, That's not a common name.
No, I had to Google it while we were sitting there because I was like, wait a minute, that Mario Van Peebles
It
Sweet
really is
Sweetback's
the
badass
same-
song? And
the same
yeah,
guy- Oh.
New Jack City.
Wow.
Son of Melvin Van Peebles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they got some cult classic gold for this week's episode.
I remember there was a rumor going around when this sixth season was coming out that they were going to get like a big name director to do the finale. Like M. Night Shyamalan was a popular rumor back when he was like
Oh,
kind of at the
God.
top of his game the first time. Didn't end up happening, but yeah, I think remember looking at like the names in the credits and being like, oh no, it's just Jack Bender again.
Mario Van Peebles. Oh, man.
So continuing a theme in the Sideways world where characters like who had extremely dysfunctional father-son relationships are in a much better place. Ben is taking care of his elderly father who seems just very cordial and friendly to him. Gives him a little speech about how he, in this universe, I think they went to the island but left after a short time, so they just weren't on there for very long. And he just, talks about all the great potential his son had. And at one point says, who knows what you would have become, right? As Ben, who's changing out the oxygen mask that his father is using, turns the valve on the gas, which is just like, yes, who knows indeed.
And I love this because it is our first confirmation. I mean, we saw in the cold open to the pilot that the island is on the bottom of the ocean, but we've been given no indication up to this point as to like, were people actually on the island in the Flash Sideways? Was the Dharma Initiative a thing here? And we get a confirmation that, yeah, it was. And Ben and Roger were there on the island, presumably before it sank, I hope, unless, 12-year-old Ben was responsible for sinking an island. But yeah,
He's done worse.
It's true. He moved it. Who knows? Yeah, confirms that they left and never went back. And we get a whole bunch of high school drama here because Dr. Linus has to go to Dr. Arst and be like, do you know anything about computers? Because this would be 2004, you see, when knowing such things would have been like a skill.
A big deal.
Yeah. And also, I assume it was a lot easier to hack into somebody's email in 2004.
You're a scientist. Can you hack into someone's emails?
Yeah, like that's an omnidisciplinary skill. But it just made me realize watching it, Locke is there, Ben's there, Dr. Ars is there. Who else would watch? Oh, and we find out that Alex is there as well as a student. Who else would watch Lost, the high school edition?
I'd be willing to give that a try just because I feel like, honestly, if anything, the Jack, Kate, Sawyer triangle would be much more palatable if, like, Sawyer's, like, the kid who hangs out behind the bleachers getting high all the time, and Jack's the, like the captain of the basketball team and the the highest GPA just burning himself out.
Yeah, exact same setup, just no island. Same characters, but just in different age ranges. Every episode, like, you get a flashback of how did Ben become a teacher? Why is Jack so troubled on the field?
Everybody else is having flashbacks to like 4th grade and 3rd grade.
Yeah, that would be the weird part. But I would 1,000% watch that.
Mm-hmm.
When
No
I was
doubts.
a kid, I was at the point where the WB cartoon lineup on Saturday morning included a show called X-Men Evolution.
Oh, yeah.
Where the X-Men were reimagined as like teenagers at the local high school. And that got me in a period where I was like, man, everything would be cooler if they were teenagers in high school. And there was a lot of internet fanfic about that for various things at that time.
Mm-hmm. Well, just imagine how adorable it would be seeing teenage Charlotte and teenage Faraday get their first dance at the prom.
Yeah.
We're going to go write this fan fiction anyway. Sorry.
But yeah, so that scene ends with when Ben realizes he can get this leverage that Principal Reynolds has done something fireable. Michael Emerson does a really fun thing where he like lets Island Ben come out a little bit, and just like the way his eyes kind of squint and he smiles, and you're like, oh, he's, it's the look that in the original Island timeline, like, okay, somebody would be manipulated into killing somebody else as a direct result of this look. And here, because I love that the episode never goes beyond just high school stakes, but everybody plays it with the emotional reality that they would have for super serious on island stuff. It's a fun thing.
And I kind of buried the lead a little bit, but I did note that it's been too long since somebody mentioned the legendary Nikki and Paolo, because it's around this point in the episode that Miles name drops those two jabronis who were buried with what did he say, $3 million in diamonds?
He says $8 million specifically because Ben tries to like bring up the 3.2 million
right.
bribe again, and Miles is just like, no, I just have to walk over there and get 8 million.
Well, I just have to dig up some dead bodies and, desecrate a grave. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. Yeah, totally. Listen, for that kind of money and them diamonds, I might do it.
I'd dig up a dead body. Shit.
I mean, I'd dig one up for less, probably.
At this point, it's just a matter of figuring out how low I would go.
That's true. That's true. Do I have to touch it?
But Miles, so he's kind of making conversation because Alana she's tethered Ben by his ankle to a tree and is forcing him to dig the grave that he is going to then be placed in. And he is kind of like whining to Miles a little bit because Ben is in a very self-pitying place for a lot of this episode.
Hey, if you were digging your own grave.
Yeah, I guess you're a little entitled there. But he complains about how all he did was kill Jacob, someone who, in Ben's view, didn't even care about being killed. And Miles, who, again, has seen the echoes of Jacob, says, no, he cared. Right up until the moment the knife entered his heart, he was hoping he was wrong about you. I guess he wasn't, because, twist that knife of your own there, Miles. And then he just walks off and, yeah, let's Ben just sit with that feeling for a while.
Anytime anyone gets to get one over on Ben, it's a win. And the way that Michael Emerson sells that revelation is fantastic.
He's fantastic.
So meanwhile, Hurley and Jack are walking through the jungle. Jack wants to go back to the temple because he doesn't realize there's been a massacre there yet. And Hurley's trying to steer him away from there because Jacob hinted that was happening. They run into Richard, who takes them to the Black Rock, which is a place we haven't seen in a little while. And I just noted it's fun that we see Sideways Arst at the same time that we return to this place with the dynamite that killed Arst in season 1.
Good catch. I didn't even think about that.
But yeah, so Richard explains that what he wants to do is because he's basically tired of his eternal life. Despite like standing up to the Man in Black earlier in the season and refusing to join him, he's burned out. He feels like he's lost everything. So he can't kill himself under the rules of the eternal life that he's got. So he wants Jack or Hurley to light a stick of dynamite and leave him there with it. And Jack half obliges. He does light a stick of dynamite, puts it on the table next to where Richard's sitting, and then sits down across from him. And in one of the more badass act-outs this show's had in a while, goes, now, let's talk.
It's great. And you, a while back, coined the phrase that Jack is speedrunning Locke's character arc. And here we are in full-blown no because Destiny says so mode. Like full-blown season 2 John Locke. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great little scene where just Richard is kind of like, are you sure you really want to be doing this? And Jack's like, no, I'm sure I do because I know like Jacob is watching me. And Hurley in the background briefly tries to talk Jack out of it and then very wisely just takes off. He's like, I'm going to be really far away from here. Good luck. Because, yeah, Hurley is not quite in the crazy place Jack is.
Well, and also Hurley has been right there when somebody exploded in front of him.
Yeah, who needs to do that twice?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just can't imagine anybody being around someone abruptly exploding. I hope nobody has to have that happen again. So yeah, Flock, the Man in Black, sneaks out of the jungle to talk to Ben while he's digging and tells him that he's got... he basically invites him to join his crew and specifically mentions that he wants Ben to have the role of running the island after he's gone, which is interesting because when he was talking to Sawyer previously, he was saying that his plan was to just leave and ignore the island and that the island was not special and didn't really need protecting. Whether he was lying to Sawyer, whether he's lying to Ben because he knows that's what'll be most appealing to him, who knows? But yeah, it's a interesting thing that like the lies he's telling to different people to kind of get them on his side. Last week I had a whole thing about like, does the Man in Black ever directly lie? And thinking back on it, that was really stupid because he lies all the time, clearly, especially in these episodes. So that was just a weird thing that I got hung up on.
Well, it's because he's so good at it.
Yeah.
That you stop to actually believe him. But it's also like adding a weird kind of caveat to the Flock / the Man in Black's abilities. He's also telekinetic? Because he's able to undo the chain on Ben's leg just by like looking at it. This is not an ability he ever uses again, to the best of my knowledge, and has never used prior to this.
Maybe it was like, okay, you get to do this one time, so make it count.
It's like been saving this little token.
Exactly.
He's going to blow this guy's mind.
Yep.
So back in the Flash Sideways, Ben confronts the principal with the damning emails, but the principal has a counter move because Alex, who is Ben's favorite student, wants to go to Yale, and the principal, as a Yale graduate, can write her a recommendation letter, but if Ben moves against him, he'll write a bad recommendation letter.
He'll ruin her life.
And again, just because Michael Emerson and Richard Atherton are both so...
William
Atherton are so good at playing just these like slimy connivers. Like, I just love how seriously they play this, like, relative to what we've been watching on the rest of the show, this no stakes scene. And I kind of wonder, though, did they feel annoyed that they'd already cast Kevin Durand to show up as Keamy in Saeed's Flash Sideways? Because imagine where Martin Keamy is the principal, and he's like, I'll kill Alex's educational future if you don't do what I want, just to really emphasize that this is a redo of the choice Ben had in season 4.
You've got 3 seconds. His finger is hovering over the send button. 3, 2. It's also a missed opportunity for Ben here, because I feel like he gave up really, really quick. He's like, resign and recommend me for the position or I release these emails. And the principal's like, okay, give that up, or I send this, or I don't write a recommendation letter for Alex. What is to stop Ben from countering, like, okay, actually do both of those things or these emails get out? You're like, now, great, you added more work onto yourself to keep from getting blackmailed.
Yeah. I guess it's just that this version of Ben is like not willing to risk anything for Alex, so yeah, and he's also not the veteran gambler that Island Ben is.
Yeah. And just I noted that in broad strokes, these characters are more or less themselves, just in much more mundane situations. Again, high school Lost. Make it happen. Man, Michael Emerson puts on a fucking acting clinic in this episode. He's always been great since he was introduced in season 2, but he's only gotten better. And his talk with Alana out in the forest, where he just kind of skipped over the whole, like, hey, I hit a gun. Locke's like, hey, I hit a gun for you out here. If you get to it first, you can kill her. And he doesn't. He has her at gunpoint. He has her at his mercy. And then instead he monologues at her, and she ends up forgiving him. And it's just a really beautiful moment in a series, like in a episode full of great stuff coming from Ben and Sideways Ben.
I think what I love about the way he plays it is that it's just, he seems, not to title, he just seems so lost after everything he's done, that he feels like between killing John Locke and killing Jacob, he's just done these horrible things that he can never be forgiven for. And so he's going to go with the Man in Black, not because he has really high hopes for anything, just because he doesn't think he has anywhere else left he can go. And when Alana asks herself, well, what would Jacob do? And decides she's going to give Ben another chance, just the look that on his face after that of realizing that maybe he still can do something new and that there's a redemption arc still to come for him is just, it's a really lovely moment.
Idea that just came to mind. We already have one Lost tattoo. We should get WWJD tattooed somewhere on us. And then when people are like, I didn't know you're religious, be like, oh no, it's what would Jacob do? And then have to go down a rabbit hole explaining the character of Jacob to them.
Why not?
It could be our own personal Sermon on the Mount.
Actually, I'm down for every tattoo I get being a lead into telling someone about a TV show I love.
Fantastic. All right. Well, then you're going to love my next idea of getting a 40 caliber bullet tattooed somewhere on us so that we can talk to the people about Justified.
Because that's our next one, right?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Down with that?
I would totally do that.
And in one of the best character arc moments here, Flash Sideways Ben, it turns out, used his powers of manipulation for good instead of evil by giving up on his aspirations and, backstabbingly getting his aspirations and got Alex that recommendation letter instead. Beautiful stuff.
And also gets the history club reinstated and somebody else to watch detention, which were two other like minor things he was beefing with the principal about. Yeah, I just kind of mentioned that, like, when Ben comes back to the camp with Alana and kind of, he offers to help Sun put up her tarp. And it's just, again, a little moment of just doing a nice thing for somebody else that doesn't benefit him at all, doesn't advance any scheme he's working on. It's just, he helps out somebody who could use a hand. And it's just like a little thing that just shows that he's finally on a different path.
Yep. And so we see that as the episode is wrapping up, we see everybody in one of those beach montages, and we see that, yes, Miles did, in fact, dig up those two graves and find those diamonds. We see him holding them in his hands, and I wrote down, Miles Strom, psychic grave robber.
Which, I mean, if you can communicate with the dead, not a bad use of those abilities.
Exactly. What are they going to do, complain? And it's beach reunion time. We haven't had one of these in so long. I feel like since season 3, like pretty much since Jack came back from New Otherton, right?
Gotta be, yeah, because you didn't really have anything after the camp split up in season 4.
Yeah.
And everybody was still scattered after the Ajira return.
Yeah. But Jack and Hurley and Richard hook up with the Ajira beach survivors.
Oh, yeah, we didn't really talk about it, but the confrontation when Jack and Richard ends when, as Jack predicts, the dynamite fizzles out before it goes off. So he does establish that, yep, the island's not done with him and possibly not with Richard.
Mm-hmm. And that's definitely not going to backfire on him at a critical moment.
But yeah, we do see that somebody is watching this this reunion. In fact, out in the water alongside the beach. Look, I just noted. I know that Charles Widmore has like more money than Midas, but how easy is it to get a submarine on this show? Because the Dharma Initiative had one. I guess the others were still using that one. Like all the ways Widmore could get back to the island, he's like, I'm going to buy up a submarine.
The man bought a plane.
To sink it.
Just for the express purpose of sinking it along with
A bunch of dead bodies.
that he presumably paid to have dug up.
Probably went back to his plane guy, and that dude was like, no, the last plane I sold you just wound up at the bottom of the ocean. I'm not getting you another one.
Well, this one's also going to end up in the ocean, but for a very different reason. That's where it's supposed to be. That's where it's happiest.
Maybe he got Miles. You know, hey, come find me some dead bodies that don't mind being dug up and then sunk in the ocean.
But yeah, Charles Widmore is the guy Jacob alluded to coming back to the island.
And that's going to work out great for everybody.
Which also really confuses me, because I don't understand why he would want him to come back. But obviously, I will find out in however many episodes are left.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember if I said it on the day that we watched or not, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
You did.
There's
You
that.
did. And yes.
All right, we're going to move on to episode 608, Recon, which is a Sawyer episode.
Let's see. So it starts with, well, I think we just saw it was a large tent in the middle of the jungle, so we all went to, our thoughts all went to the same place, that Sawyer has built himself a jungle fuck hut. But then we find out that no, Jen is still inside recovering from his leg wound, and this is also the place where Claire's been living, along with her like baby made of dead animal bones. So it's about as far from a fuck hut as you can get.
Which one of us coined the phrase fuck hut way back in season 1?
One of y'all, I'm pretty sure.
It wasn't me.
I don't remember.
We've
It's just always been.
Yeah, we have gotten so much mileage out of the phrase fuck hut that, like,
Yes.
I feel bad because when we do whatever show or whatever we go on to, if we do Justified, if we do whatever, nothing else is going to have fuck huts for us to bring up.
We'll just throw it in there somehow. Like we'll work it in there.
You know, on Justified, Raylan does spend a lot of time living in like one of those long stay, like extended
motel
stay
places.
motels
Yeah.
that is kind of like Raylan Givens' own personal fuck hut.
Well, there you go. But I just like in this note right here, it says Jen and Sawyer hanging out at Claire's definitely not a fuck hut. I'm sorry. It's just the best.
It's worth being specific.
Yes.
So we get a flash sideways to Sawyer, who does not quite flash, even though he is just getting out of bed with a woman. And for the third time, we see him do the, oh, I'm late for a meeting. Let me grab my briefcase. It fell open. Oh, I didn't intend for you to see all that money. So yeah, the third time we see what I think they call it the pigeon drop within the show. It's of the 3 times we see it done, it worked once, the very first time. And then Cassidy immediately was like, wait, hold on, this seems really weird. And then this time, the other woman immediately pulls a gun on him. So now, in both cases, and with Cassidy, that was actually the prelude to the long con. So he wanted her to see through his deception, layers and layers.
Yeah, I was going to say, technically it worked twice. But yeah. So if you thought fuck hut was a fun phrase.
So we find out when, this lady pulls a gun. It turns out this whole thing is a sting operation because they really just wanted her to take the briefcase with a tracking device back to her husband, who is the target of Police Detective Sawyer. Fuck cop. Because he says this whole room is wired. They're listening. And again, he and this lady just got done hooking up. So Sawyer filed his timesheet with the police and was like, I'm going out. I got my signed off on his probable cause warrants to get everything. And he's having sex with a lady just with a van full of cops listening outside.
And it's Sawyer. He's swarthy. The ladies love him. That was some moaninest, ball-slappingest sex any of those poor cops in the surveillance van have ever heard outside of porn.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I would not have wanted to be in that van after they got out.
I wouldn't have wanted to be in that hotel room.
Well, that
I'd
too.
have been holding my gun on her from out in the balcony. Pointing that shit at her through the window.
But yeah, when she doesn't lower the gun, Sawyer says his alert, his code word, his red alert word, LaFleur. And the cops come busting in, led by his partner, who is
Miles Strom.
What?
And I would 100% watch this buddy cop team up show. This was the perfect season of setups for spinoffs.
That's a good point.
I would say of the whole season, I would say this is the one where I'm just dang, I wouldn't mind seeing more stories of Cop Sawyer and Miles and just their LAPD adventures.
The revelation here that in the Sideways alternate universe, Sawyer is a cop does call into question the fact that he saw back in the first episode of season 6, he saw Kate with a pair of handcuffs on in an elevator, and then presumably heard the chatter about there being an escaped convict and just let her go.
Well, maybe he was just yeah, it's not my problem.
He's a fuck cop.
So.
He doesn't play by your rules, man.
Well, this was a golden opportunity for him to get some in an airport. We missed an airport. Yeah, him and Kate could have hooked up. She could have kept the cuffs on.
Damn it, Ford, you let a fugitive go in the elevator. I want your condoms, your gun, and your badge on my desk tomorrow.
Joke's on you. I don't have any condoms.
I came here to shoot people and use condoms, and I'm all out of condoms. He's a fuck cop.
Oh my God, I love this.
So we
Go
do
ahead.
find out.
Make my day. I know what you're thinking, punk. Did he fuck 5 times or 6? Well, you got to ask yourself, do you feel lucky?
See, it is, I've got a 44 Magnum in my pants.
Oh God. Oh my God, we have going rails. We're so off the rails.
Anyway.
We do find out that a side project he's working on is looking up people named Anthony Cooper and trying to see if any of them were in his hometown back when his parents died. So even though it was, we found out that Sideways Locke apparently has a good relationship with his dad, there's a Sideways Anthony Cooper who ruined Sawyer's life. So unclear if that was a different Mr. Sawyer or if Locke had a different dad, but that's one thing that hasn't changed.
And we find out from alternate Sideways Miles that his dad, Pierre Chang, a.k.a. Marvin Candle, a.k.a. I can't remember the rest of his...
Edgar Halowax.
Yes. is working in a museum in this timeline. Presumably, he also had to have been on the island at some point.
I totally missed that.
Yep. Well, he doesn't name drop him. He just says, when he's talking to Sawyer about the date that he set up, he's like, yeah, she works with my dad at the museum. And I was like, oh, okay.
Sadly, there's no organic way for Miles to mention how many arms his father still has at this point.
It's true. We never actually see Pierre Chang this season, I don't think. So, yeah, it's just a fun little reference. And this whole season, I've been trying to figure out what kept catching my eye about Flock's backpack that he's carrying around on the island. And I finally realized it is such a 2007 relic because it's got one of those little cell phone pouches on the shoulder strap back when, the goal was to see how small we could make a flip phone.
Yep.
Yeah, relic from a different time.
Wow.
And then a little bit later in the episode, Sawyer goes on a date with C.S. Lewis. That's right. Rebecca, oh my God.
Mater.
Rebecca Mater is back as Charlotte Staples Lewis and looking as glorious as ever with that curly, fiery red hair.
I was going to say, she and Josh Holloway both get done up in their first date gear and both immediately react the way you would if you went on a date and the other person looked like Josh Holloway or Rebecca Mater. So we find out here that when he's asked about how he became a cop, and I think he gives kind of like a flip answer, but Charlotte kind of pushes him and he says he had a point in his life where he had a choice to either become a criminal or become a cop, and he became a cop. So he doesn't really elaborate, but just presumably at some point, like he talked to Kate about a time when he was desperate and needed money, and so he did the same thing that Mr. Sawyer had done to get the money that he needed. And so presumably this version of James Ford decided not to do that.
I think the Rolling Stones had something to say about cops and criminals. But anyway, as you already alluded, God damn, Josh Holloway and Rebecca Mater have some great chemistry. It's too bad we didn't get to see them spend more time together. Because imagine, season 4 throwing Faraday into this mix. Not only is Sawyer already hitting on Juliet, and he's already slept with Kate, and now throw Charlotte into the mix too.
What kind of shape would that make? So you would have the quadrangle, I think,
A quadrangle with Jack and Kate and Juliet, and throw 2 more people in there. An octagon? No.
Yeah.
6-sided.
Let's see. So we've got Faraday, Sawyer, and Jack on the one side, and then Charlotte, Juliet, Kate, and that's even before getting to Ana Lucia, who also hooked up
Oh, that's
with
right,
Jack and
yeah.
Sawyer.
Blech. Gross.
Well, she hooked up with Sawyer. She kind of flirted with Jack.
I love hexagon.
Yeah, that.
Sure.
Yeah.
There we go.
A fun thing they've been doing this last season is kind of going back through old spots. We saw the Black Rock last week, and now Flock sends Sawyer on a recon mission back to the Hydra Island. Officially, he just says he wants to see if the plane that the Ajira people came in on is in any shape to be their means of getting off the island. And so when Sawyer paddles over there, he goes past the cages that he and Kate hung out in for most of the first part of season 3, including Kate's dress just apparently left there. I guess nobody needed it after they escaped.
It just would not have looked like that.
No. After 3 years?
No, it would have been mildew if it still existed.
And plus, we don't know what kind of... You know what? Never mind.
Yeah, yep.
So yeah, reading your note there, Robert, inspired me to start a revisiting old locations check-in. So we get one or two more of those in this batch of episodes, and then for all I remember, that could just stop after these couple of episodes, and we quietly, we're right here at the end. We probably shouldn't be adding more jungle runs and butt holsters, but
something has to take the place of a Sawyer nickname watch.
That's true. We haven't really gotten one of those.
No.
Yeah.
No. God, he's.
Did we write it? I think somebody else calls him a nickname at some point in this.
Yeah. Was it this one or?
Oh, he calls his mark or whatever. He calls her Dimples at one point.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's lame.
Yeah, I mean, he's called, we're just so used to him.
Freckles.
Yeah, calling Kate Freckles and stuff like that, little terms of endearment more so than a nickname.
But yeah, back at the gathering, because Flock brings the rest of the temple survivors back to Claire's place, and they're hanging out. Kate's trying to check in on Saeed, who's still just checked out of everything. And then abruptly she gets yanked backwards off the log she's sitting on, and Claire tries to stab her in the neck. And, we've all been there. Quite reasonable. I think I mentioned that Claire seemed to have gotten past like the death glare she was giving, but no, it turned out she was just biding her time. Kate calls out for Saeed to help, and he just kind of, is just watching like completely indifferent as she's fighting for her life. Eventually, Flock comes over, drags Claire off, and when she's still like screaming about how Kate stole her baby, Flock just decks her, just full on slaps her across the face. As I noted, he went to the Sean Connery school of dealing with female emotion. Kind of a shocking moment, again, just because it's, sweet little Claire, even if she has gone crazy, and, good old John Locke just decks her across the face. But
Well, if classic movies have taught me anything, that's just how you deal with a hysterical woman. I mean, Clue, anybody?
Yeah.
I had to stop her screaming.
Airplane. Yeah, that's what's unrealistic. You don't then have the line of people like being like, okay, no, Kate should get one too. Fair. Okay, I shouldn't joke about that. I respect women, and violence is not okay. Disclaimer.
Unless it's against Kate. And right after this, we get a jungle run check-in because Sawyer sees somebody, a new face on Hydra Island who takes off running, and he goes chasing after her. So we get to see Josh Holloway running again in all of his glory.
Yeah.
I actually felt bad about this because there's a pile of bodies that have been like dragged to a pit. And my thought was, oh yeah, there were corpses on the plane. Somebody just moved them all over there. And I'd completely forgotten that what we saw after the Aeterno crash, it was a lot of people were still alive and walking around. That like Lapidus, Sun, Alana, like some of the others left, but there were a bunch of people still on the beach. And they all just got killed at some point off screen. And if I remember, we don't ever find out who did that. Like, Widmore says it wasn't him, and I think Flock says it wasn't him either. One of them could well be lying, but...
Oh, yeah, I was under the impression that Widmore was lying through his teeth about that. Because
then he could use that plane to sink it to the... Sorry.
Yes, exactly.
Just push that thing into the ocean. I've gotten the taste for it now. It must happen again.
I have to sink something expensive.
When you're that rich, you got to find your own entertainment.
Yep. And then we get, in the Flash Sideways, we get another little cameo from a former character. It's Liam Pace, who has come to the police precinct that Sawyer works at to see about his brother. Because I had kind of forgotten the whole Charlie tried to swallow a baggie of heroin and nearly choked to death on it thing from the first episode of the season.
Yep, that he left the plane in police custody. Back on the island, so yeah, Sawyer chases this woman down and pulls a gun on her. She claims to be... just like the last survivor of the Aeterno flight. But Sawyer sees through that pretty quickly, and then she calls for backup, and a bunch of really unimposing guys come running out of the jungle.
It's like she brought a bunch of finance bros with her.
I remember this group in reviews I was reading at the time got referred to as Widmore's Nerd Squad, which, yeah...
Yeah, I mean, after the last time he brought an actual team of mercenaries with him, now he's got these guys.
Same thing. He went back to his mercenary guy, and that guy was like, no, I gave you a team of like ex-Marines, and they all got killed, apparently. No.
So you get to have my IT backup team. Obviously, you can't have my real IT team. They're doing stuff. You get the interns. Give that college freshman a shotgun.
So yeah, Flock takes Kate aside and sort of apologizes for how that went. I forget the context it comes up with, but Kate says, like, I'm talking to a dead man at one point, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is the first time she's seen Locke since getting back to the island. I guess she saw him at the temple for the first time. This is the first time she's spoken to him. It's kind of a thing this episode and the next to realize just how many people aren't in the loop on what's happened there. We do get a hint of Flock's backstory. He talks about having a very unstable mother himself, which caused a lot of issues that he's dealing with, and that Aaron has an unstable mother too. And then he doesn't say it, but he looks at Kate and is just kind of like, so, if you want to kill her, that's fine. Very clearly his implication. Just an interesting note that, like, the man in black, we see kind of... He explains that his reason for telling Claire that the others had stolen her baby was because he thought she needed hatred as a motivator to just survive being mostly alone on the island for 3 years. Just a reminder that his thing is basically always getting people to act on their worst impulses, to, find this person as an enemy. This is someone you need to kill. This is someone you need to lie to. That, however justified he feels in kind of knocking over Jacob's, like, model train set that is the island. Yeah, basically everybody he works with comes off worse just because they listen to him.
Because how many others has Claire killed over the last 3 years? Like, most of them live in terror of her. Yeah. And not like the kind of mild annoyance way that they seem to feel about Rousseau, where it's just like, oh, God, it's that woman. Like, she's chopping people up with axes and things.
Yeah, like we didn't really talk about it last episode, but when I forget his name, but the surviving other that she killed in front of Jen was like, no, untie me, I'll get the drop on her, I will break her neck immediately. And it's just like, yeah, that's the reaction they have to her. So yeah, in Flash Sideways, we talked about Sawyer and Charlotte hooking up, but she finds that he's got like an Anthony Cooper file buried in one of his drawers. He freaks out, throws her out, and then spends an evening just alone, drinking a beer, heating up frozen food, and watching. I looked it up. It's Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah,
and you didn't know that?
I couldn't remember if it was that, or if it was like Bonanza.
Green Acres.
Like, yeah, it was like, it's one of those old-fashioned ones.
Oh yeah, no, I immediately recognized Little House.
Oh God,
Robert, look at what you have done to Cara.
Sorry, that was just a little stab in my heart.
But the scene specifically talks about how it's the dad explaining to the little girl how the people we love aren't really gone, and we've got happy memories to hold on to until we get to see them again, which is a big hefty dose of foreshadowing.
Very much so.
And it motivates Sawyer to break out his old sunflower trick. We saw him do this with Juliet on the island, and it's a sunflower and a 6-pack of beer that he takes to Charlotte's apartment. But in an impressively realistic touch, she's like, no, you kicked me out of your house at 3 a.m. This isn't happening again.
Which is too bad because, again, they have great chemistry together, but it was around this time in the episode that I realized, damn, Josh Holloway has great chemistry with basically everybody except Evangeline Lilly. How in the hell?
I'm starting to think the common denominator here is Kate.
I'll say in their defense, it worked well when it was like, she was attracted to him and trying not to act on it. Whenever they try to be like, oh, we're both flirting with each other, it just feels weird. Like when he's the bad boy and she's the girl who knows she should want the good guy. And, geez, I hate that it's the final season and this is what we're talking about in terms of her character.
But anyway.
Yeah, so Sawyer gets taken to Widmore's submarine, and he notices that there's like a locked door with an armed guard that nobody wants him to ask any questions about. So he gets brought to Widmore and just tells him, he's like, yeah, a guy who is John Locke, who we both know isn't really John Locke, wanted me to come over here, scout you out so he can come. I'm going to tell him to come over here and you can trap him or kill him or do whatever. So Widmore lets him go, and then Sawyer immediately goes back, meets up with Locke, and is like, yeah, Charles Widmore's over there. I told him that I was going to send you back over there, but really you can go. So he's kind of conning both sides, but hilariously he's just doing it by telling them the truth about the last conversation he had. That there's no real deception to it. He's just like, yeah, this is what I just told that guy.
Well, it's kind of like, he's going to wind him up and let him go and see what happens. And at either way, he's good. Because whoever's left.
Yeah, I mean, right after this, he tells Kate that is what he's doing. And I wrote down that it's the age-old con man tradition of pitting two sides against the middle.
I believe they call it the let's you and him fight.
Yeah, or the Kansas City Shuffle, or, all kinds of names for it. But yeah, the idea is to set Widmore and Flock against each other, and in the midst, they are going to steal that submarine.
I love because he brings that up because he's mentioned the plane, and Kate's like, we can't get out of here on a plane. We don't know how to fly one. And Sawyer's like, no, I'm not going for the plane. I'm going for the submarine. And the episode ends before we cut away before she can ask, sorry, do you know how to use a submarine?
Because that has to be even harder than flying a plane, I'm thinking.
I would think that it's probably easier to make a submarine go and harder to get it to go in the direction you want. Because if you're thinking about the ocean like four-dimensionally, how do you like, yep, we're totally on track, and you're actually like going straight down towards the center of the earth.
Well, but like a plane is designed to be like operated by like one or two people. So you've got like a chair, and everything you need to do is like, here's a wheel, you turn it and you go. And a submarine is like, oh, you need at least like 5 or 6 people at stations with buttons. So
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
yeah, I don't know. Nobody should put me in charge of either one. That's what I know. I didn't really make a note here, but while Sawyer does fail to reconnect with Charlotte, he does succeed in connecting with the true love of any cop's life, his partner. Because, yeah, there was a whole thing where he went to Australia in this version to look for Anthony Cooper. That's where he found out the name. But he lied to everyone else and pretended he was just taking a vacation in Palm Springs. Miles got pissed when he found out. And now Sawyer comes clean, and Miles seems to accept it. Although he seems a little uncertain when Sawyer's like, oh, and when I find him, I am going to kill him. But they get interrupted because a car comes out of nowhere and smashes into them.
Yep. And that sets off what Robert dubbed the urban jungle run, which sees them following Kate running through the back alleys of Los Angeles, which is about as film noir as it gets. And flash sideways, Sawyer and Kate have been reunited for better or worse. And we are moving on to the last episode that we're going to talk about, episode 609, Aeterno, which is a Richard episode, mostly, but it's got some splashes of Alana in there as well.
And a Man in Black flashback at the end.
Oh, yeah, there's that too. And right off the bat, we get a dead all along check-in, because at least Ricardus, as people keep calling him, thinks so. We've gotten Ricardus, we've gotten Ricardo, we've gotten Richard. What is this man's name?
All of the above.
They've stopped short of calling him Dick.
I put an addition into my favorite or best line deliveries down below, because we find out that we saw Jacob visit Alana in a hospital at the end of season 5, and now we see the rest of it where she basically is told, you need to protect the remaining candidates. Ricardus will know what to do. And so in the present, they're all sitting on the beach, and they turn to look at him, and Nestor Carbonell, just starting to uncork a little bit of the magic that he's going to bring this episode, just goes, ha 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 ha. Just in the most like insane, like, are you seriously looking at me right now? Laugh before he goes on to his whole monologue. But it's just a great, like, it is not a sound you expect this character to make after the way he's played him for the last 3 seasons. But yeah, you mentioned, the check-in that, yeah, he is convinced that in fact they are in hell and have been dead the whole time. Hilariously, nobody else ever seems to consider that he's right for a second. I think because everybody there around him has left the island and come back, so his whole this place is hell and we're trapped thing doesn't really make sense. But he's clearly going through some stuff. It's mentioned that, yeah, he says he's going to go off to see somebody else now that he knows Jacob was always lying. And when Jack asks who that is, he's told, oh, it's John Locke. He's like, wait, what? And we don't really get much time for him to dig into that. But I was like, oh, it's weird that it took 9 episodes of the final season for Jack to find out that there's a fake Locke running around.
Holy shit, I had not considered that either. Jack hasn't encountered, no, because then they were in 1977,
Yeah.
and then they came back, and their camps have been completely separate the whole time.
The last time he saw John Locke was when he was cramming his dad's sneakers onto him before closing the casket.
Yep, and then he and Hurley weren't at the temple when Locke showed up. So, holy shit, wow.
But we're not going to spend much time on that or really anything in the present because we are going farther back in flashback than we have ever gone before. Prior to this, what was the earliest flashback? Like the day Locke was born, I guess it would have to be?
Yeah, in the 1950s, I think. I think he was born in 54.
No, actually, I guess, no, it would be the one at the end of season 5 where Jacob and the Man in Black have their conversation on the beach.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
for a character-specific flashback, this is the furthest.
And we know that flashback has to take place after the events of this episode because, like, the statue is already destroyed and everything. But yeah, it's mentioned, or it's said that it's said on screen. This episode, the flashbacks take place in 1867 in, oh my God, help me out here. What were the island? The Canary
So
Island?
it's the Canary Islands,
Yeah.
specifically Tenerife, which for a show that is rooted around a plane crash, Tenerife is also the location of the deadliest plane crash or plane incident in history, where two fully loaded planes collided on a runway.
Fuck.
Yeah, no, it's a
No,
freakish story.
crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crash Hut.
Crash it.
But yeah, so I did love that we kind of also get back into something that used to be in the early seasons where like the flashbacks would take us almost into different genres, like Saeed's in kind of this tortured military thing, Jack's in a medical soap opera, Sawyer's in like a sleazy crime thriller. And with Richard, we get a period telenovela where like everybody's sweaty, he's got a woman he's in love with, but there's like a rich snob who, won't help him. And yeah, it's like, I was like, this would be like, you could do 60 episodes of this on Univision.
Yeah.
And I would watch it.
Yeah.
I loved this episode.
Yeah, and Ricardo's wife is named Isabella. I mean, come on.
It's just like overall, I think this is kind of the last episode, taking out the season and the series finales, which on Lost kind of exist in a class of their own. When people do their list of like top 10 episodes, I think this is the last one that almost everybody includes. It's just such a great thing. And I mentioned it earlier, Nestor Carbonell, brilliant actor, and he's been so good as Richard, just as this sort of perpetually calm, mysterious figure. And he spends most of this episode as a guy who is just like screaming and terrified and getting pushed around by other people. And he just grounds all of that with just making this guy's, his fear, his grief, all of these emotions that are driving him all come together. Such a great performance from him. To kind of skim it. His wife is sick. He goes to a doctor for medicine. The doctor refuses to help. There's a scuffle and the doctor falls, hits his head and dies. So, Ricardo is going to be hanged, and he tries to make his final confession and asks to be absolved of his sin of murder. But unfortunately, his confession is taken by the Christian shepherd of Catholic priests.
Which still functions as a complete sentence when removed from the context of the show.
So yeah,
the Christian shepherd of Catholic priests is isn't that like their job?
Supposed to be, but yeah, when he's like, "Will you forgive me, Father?" No. What?
You can't be forgiven for murder.
I'm not going to do that. You could, I guess, have penance, but you're going to be hanged tomorrow. So nope, you're going to hell, and the devil's waiting for you.
How many Hail Marys do you have to say for accidental murder?
That's not how that works, but okay.
I noted there's a lot to unpack in kind of Richard's story that leads him to the island. He seeks help from both a man of science and a man of faith, and both of them just kind of throw it in his face that like both of those fail him before he winds up where he is.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Wow, that is a great fucking catch.
Well, I was reading up on it because did you recognize who played the priest? Cara? I'm looking at you specifically because I know you've seen him. I was like, this guy looks so familiar. He was Nacho's dad on Better Call Saul. So on Better Call Saul, you've got like a criminal character who's like involved in like cartel shenanigans. And he's got a dad who's just like this morally incorruptible guy. He's like, I love you, but don't ever come into my house while you're doing that stuff. No, I won't let your friends use my shop. So he's just like this moral pillar. And then to have him play a priest who not only does this like, nope, sorry, your sin is too bad for me to forgive. He also then sells him into slavery. And that's even the word. He doesn't even try to frame it as like, I've got a way you can do penance. Here, I'm selling you to this guy. He's just like, no, you're going to hell. And also, this dude owns you.
Yeah. But before you go to hell, I got bad news.
Yeah, the actor's name is Juan Carlos Cantu. And yeah, he's only in that one scene. But it's like, oh, fun shock to see him.
Well, we get another revisiting old locations check-in because we see the Black Rock take out the Towerette statue and then somehow get thrown miles inland by this tsunami, whatever it is.
It would have to be a rogue wave because, those, nothing can really, I mean, obviously I don't know how tall the statue is, but I mean, it's pretty damn tall. So that had to be just a rogue wave that came in and launched the ship inland a couple miles. I don't know
also, how did the statue break and not the ship?
Maybe like the statue is like already getting knocked over by the wave and the ship just kind of bounces off it. Magic Island is sort of the explanation we're going with there.
Yeah, I always forget Magic Island.
So I just kind of noted it was interesting that after the first like 6 episodes with everything in the temple, it's very much like stuff moving forward. Like people are getting killed left and right. These last 3 episodes have kind of been a lot more like, okay, settle down. Where is everybody? Let's let Ben reflect on what he's done. Let's let Sawyer figure out whose side he's on or how he can play them into his own good. And then we just stop and it's like, let's see how Richard got here. Which honestly, pacing wise, I kind of like it. They just give a little, like, give you a chance to breathe.
I always like to call these table setting episodes.
Yeah, so we, poor Richard just has kind of a really crummy, it's not really clear how long he's there, but after the ship crashes, the surviving crew members kill the other people chained up in the hold with Richard to prevent a mutiny, but the black smoke monster shows up, kills all of them before they can get to Richard. And then we see, again, it's unclear, but he just, like, is still chained to the wall. We see him like try to reach water that's dripping through the boards above him, but he can't quite get to it. He gets a nail that he tries to use to like file through his chains, but it gets knocked out of his hand. Just, crummy time. And then when he's really had a bad time, his wife shows up. Is she still alive? No, she's dead. They're both in hell. And she's got to run away, and she also gets yanked up by the black monster. So just when Richard is basically at his most like stretched out, psychologically strung into nothingness, who should show up but Man in Black 1.0, our good old Titus Welliver. And I just kind of noted, I love Terry O'Quinn and how he plays this character in the last season and a half, but Titus Welliver is also so fantastic, and just, he's got a certain friendliness, but it's very cold. Like, his words aren't hostile, he's not usually aggressive, but there's just a very, like...
He just has a menacing presence.
Yeah, and he just uses that really well without needing to play anything else as like overt. And so yeah, it's just a case of like, dang, I wish we could have had. I wish there was an alternate version where we see Locke playing all of the scenes, and then we see Terry O'Quinn playing all the scenes, and then Titus Welliver playing all of them. Just get to see sort of the side by side. There is one question that I kind of noted, which is, Isabella is the Man in Black impersonating her to like manipulate Richard. How is he doing that? Because it seems like previously it's been established he can only take your shape if you died on the island or if you came there as a corpse. Like, Richard brought her cross necklace, so maybe that's like enough of a link, but...
Or we jokingly said that perhaps her body was on the Black Rock. Like, for some reason they were taking her corpse with them.
Well,
which has larger implications. Yeah, because he was able to take the form of Yemi and Christian Shepherd, whose dead bodies were both on the island.
And then there was Alex, who died on the island.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's Locke's dead body. But, yeah. How? Yeah, that's a good question. They played so fast and loose with how his shape-shifting ability even works, because they offhandedly, in the batch of episodes we mentioned last week, or maybe it was one, or I think it was actually one of the early ones this week that we watched, somebody offhandedly mentions that, like, oh yeah, he's locked in this form now.
Hey, locked.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think it's Alana. She says that and she doesn't really explain it.
And no one asks her to elaborate. Like, what? Wait, hold on, back up. Yeah, it's better not to just focus on his abilities too much. Last episode, he had telekinesis from out of nowhere and never uses it again.
Yeah, this time he has keys. He's got to get Richard out of the chains. He's like, I just happened to find these keys on an officer.
Yeah. And then we see them sitting outside of the Black Rock, and one of the things that the Man in Black says to him is, "It's good to see you out of those chains," which is the first thing Flock said to him when he came up to the others' camp in 2007 after the Ajira crash, when him and Son took the outrigger over to the main island.
Yeah, it's when he's revealed, like, and Richard recognized it, and I think that's when Locke just knocked him out or something before continuing.
And then the Man in Black proceeds to give the same pitch to Richard that Dogen would much, much later use on Saeed. You need to take this dagger, go and find this man, and plunge it into his heart before he's allowed to speak.
If you let him speak, it'll be too late.
Yeah, it doesn't really work out for either of the parties involved.
Yeah, so
the way it's supposed to, at least.
Yeah, because his whole pitch is that basically you're in hell and the only way to escape is to kill the devil, which I'm not going to lie, does sound like a pretty awesome, like, I'd play that video game or watch that TV show. But I noticed that like his thing always when he's manipulating someone, it tends to be either reunion with a dead loved one or escaping the island. That those are kind of his two temptation pitches.
Well, yeah, and he also does this. Like, it's a classic, con man cold read trick. Just ask open-ended questions like, do you want to see your wife again? Well, the answer is going to be yes. Should I elaborate further? No.
It's also a great little bit where Richard, in the midst of all this, like, he's black smoke. How can I stab him? And the man in black's like, no, I'm the black smoke. He's this other guy you've got to kill.
It's crazy to think here that over all the time that they've spent on the island, if any of the characters had ever stopped to inspect the statue, they would have encountered Jacob a lot sooner. Because Saeed first notices the Taweret statue at the end of season 2, when him and Sun and Jin are sailing around to try to get the drop on the others and rescue Jack and Kate and Sawyer. And then nobody's ever like, hey, do you think we should go back and check out that statue that we passed? Nah. Jacob has presumably been there the entire time. He had said in season 4 that he hasn't been back to or I think it's been season 5, that he hasn't been to the cabin in a long time. The man in black had parked himself there. So, actually, no, they had trapped the man in black inside the cabin.
Yeah, the ash was around there.
Yeah, so Jacob had been living inside the statue since the beginning of the show.
I guess he's left the island since then. Like, he went to see the Ajira folks, and so he's taken. There's some times when he wouldn't have been there, but yeah, no, they were not nearly curious enough. I think is always going to be the epitaph for a lot of these characters.
Yeah, and it's just too bad we never get to hear Jacob say, like, hey, I was like a few miles from your camp. You guys never thought about going to visit that statue and seeing if you could possibly, I don't know, use it for shelter?
Why is it my job to come find you guys and explain everything?
Well, the plan for Richard to attack Jacob fails because he doesn't have peripheral vision. And he gets tackled by Jacob from the side, who throws him into the ocean and holds his head underwater. And it's just a fun little fact. We watched Jacob get baptized on Easter.
Richard?
I'm sorry, yeah, we watched Richard get baptized on Easter.
Yes, we were watching this Easter Sunday, and Richard gets dragged into the water, dunked in 3 times in the classic baptism fashion, which is, because, Jacob is not in a turn the other cheek mood. Like, he disarms Richard, punches him a few more times, and then, I love how kind of abrasive he is, because Richard's like, I need to see my wife. Or it's like, I came to rescue my wife. And Jacob's like, is your wife on the ship? No, she's dead. Then why are you asking me where she is? Like, he's just got no time for this nonsense. And he does the shove his face underwater to be like, okay, you think you're dead? Fine. How about this? And Richard's like, oh, actually, no, life would be nice. Please stop drowning me. It's a fun sequence. Then they sit down and have a little bit more of a conversation. Ricardo asks, are you the devil? And Mark Pellegrino, who was playing Lucifer on Supernatural around the same time they filmed this, takes like a little pause and gives a small smile and then goes, no. But it's a cute moment. He does kind of lay out sort of, he uses the metaphor of wine in a bottle with a cork to explain kind of what the island is. He says there's evil that's being contained, and if this cork were to come out, the evil would be free to escape. And he describes the man in black as sort of the heart of that evil.
Yeah, and then it gets a little biblical.
A little bit, because, Jacob explains he brings people to the island to prove that they can be good and find their way, and the man in black keeps corrupting them, and they keep killing each other. And when Ricardo's like, well, why don't you just come talk to them? Jacob's like, well, if I have to show them and make them do it, then what's the point? Which, there's a whole lot of theology and all that.
Which led me to, so Jacob is God then, in this, like...
I mean, that's where my where my head went to, because I that's the only...
Which means that in the context of the show, Ben Linus killed God.
I will point out, he offers Richard the job of being like his intermediary, and says, what do you want in return for that? And Richard asks for 2 things. First, he asks, can you bring my wife back? And Jacob says, I can't do that. And Richard says, okay, can you forgive my sins so I won't go to hell when I die? And Jacob's like, I can't do that either. So bringing people back from the dead and forgiving sins, two things Jesus was pretty well known for, Jacob explicitly says are not in his toolkit. So
yeah, that's a
I was
good
going to
point.
say he's powerful, but he's emphasizing that he's got limits. And what he can do is give Richard eternal life. So Richard will live forever and never die and be separated from his wife by hell.
I like my theory that canonically Ben Linus killed God.
I mean, well, that's kind of like his and Richard's whole arc is like they're wandering around like, what do you do when your deity is dead and you played a part in that? And like that's Richard's whole thing is he's going to, like with Jacob's death, he's convinced that actually there never was a higher purpose. The man in black was right all along, and he wants to go back to their very first arrangement, which he broke when he chose not to kill Jacob. And it's then we get kind of this really lovely coda to the episode where Richard goes back to the place where he buried the cross that his wife had, digs it up, and he starts calling for the man in black. But Hurley shows up and reveals that Richard's wife is on the island and talking, and Hurley communicates for them. And I just note it's such a sweet thing that maybe it's like a last gift to Richard. Jacob made sure that a guy who could not only talk to ghosts but could speak fluent Spanish came back to the island.
Yeah, because we didn't mention it, but at the beginning of the episode, during their powwow on the beach, Hurley goes off on his own, and you see him speaking Spanish to somebody. And Jack walks up, and he's like, "Is that Jacob?" And Hurley's like, "No, don't worry about it," and then fucks off.
And so, yeah, we have Hurley kind of acting as the telephone, like relaying her message, and they shift over, so it's treated as a dialogue between Richard and Isabella. Again, Nestor Carbonell just plays the hell out of it, of just hearing the words of this person he thought he was going to be parted from forever, and just being allowed to let go of that guilt and that pain after so long. It's, again, just a really beautiful, graceful moment.
Yep, and Hurley is continuing his savior journey. And, yeah.
Just a reminder that, again, unlike the man in black, whose move probably would have been like, what? This guy killed Jacob? Can you believe he did that to you? You need to be motivated by killing him. That, Hurley, or Jacob and Hurley both are like, no, what you need to do is just let go of this pain. Just, like, your healing is more important than you being just a cog in a machine.
And that's the end of the episode, but surely that whole the cork metaphor, keeping evil in check thing won't turn out to be literal, right?
Well, we do get one last bit where Jacob goes to see the man in black, and they reiterate that, Jacob's preventing him from leaving, and man in black's like, fine, I'll kill you and anybody else I have to get out of here. Jacob leaves him with the wine bottle, which the man in black just smashes against the log instead of taking out the cork. So, yeah, hint at what his big picture game is.
Are we going to flush the island?
Yes.
Say that.
Well, a couple of relevant dates because we're recording this and releasing this episode on Thursday, April 9th. So 21 years ago, a little over 21 years ago, on April 6th, 2005, it was episode 120, Do No Harm. On April 5th, 2006, just a little over 20. 218, Dave. April 4th, 2007 was 315, Left Behind. There was a little bit of a hiatus between episodes, so the most recent one was still March 20th, 2008. That was 408, Meet Kevin Johnson. April 9th, April 8th, 2009, we're still getting there, coming up on episode 512, Dead is Dead. And then April 5th, 2010, almost a little over 16 years ago, episode 611, Happily Ever After. That's the one we're coming up on. We've already seen 512. My bad. So yeah, that's going to wrap us up. Guys, we are, well, damn. We're halfway through the season.
Yeah. And we're coming to the end of the what'd you call them, the table setting episodes.
Yeah, it's going to be all killer, no filler from here on out. So I immediately regret the way that I phrased that.
So there's 18 episodes, you said?
Uh-huh. So that means we have 3 episodes of this podcast left before we do our season wrap up. So really 4 before we move on to something else.
Are you really going to make me watch 3 episodes that last that
Well, the finale is a 3-parter, I think. So.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the finale can be its own.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, there's we get our like final table setting episode and then a 2-part finale. We got, Cara, between now and then, we got a lot of, it's going to be back-to-back weekends of sad, emotional things happening. I hate to tell you.
Damn it.
There's going to be a lot of tears involved. But before we get to all that, Robert, you're in a show. Plug it for us, will you?
Yes, so I am in a production of The Beauty Queen of Leenane, a Irish play by Martin McDonagh. If you've seen The Banshees of Inisherin, In Bruges, Seven Psychopaths, he's written and directed some films as well, but this was a very early play he wrote about the tension-filled dynamic between a mother and daughter in kind of a remote Irish village. Goes up the first weekend of May in Waxhaw, so check it out if you're in the area.
Are you playing the daughter?
I tried, but I didn't want to shave, so.
I understand that.
Cara, what are you reading or working on right now that's bringing you joy? It's more joy than the show's going to bring you.
Oh, God. So I just finished Dr. Sleep.
Nice.
Which I just loved. I could not have loved that anymore if I had written it myself. I loved it.
Talk about ghosts coming back at critical moments.
Right? Oh my God. I cried. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have, but I did. But yes. And I literally just finished that yesterday.
Nice.
So now I got to figure out what's next.
I'm about 3/4 of the way through Desperation, and I remember this book being fucked up. I forgot how fucked up some parts of this really are.
We'll talk about that offline because I want to know which ones.
Yeah, goddamn, Steven. This was during that whole, we're going to write some really, really horrific stuff, and then a character is going to talk for 4 pages straight.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, God damn it. Just go back to the disturbing stuff. I'll take that now, please. Anyway, great book. If you want to keep up with me online, the best place to do that is on Instagram at dbhensley. And I was doing so good for a while there, but I've fallen out of the habit. But you can follow us on Instagram at Long Walk Podcasts as well. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on.
Fuck Cops, this summer on CBS.